Ladies and gentlemen, it's my distinct honor and pleasure to welcome to the Ultrarunning Magazine podcast our new owner, Commander-in-Chief, El Jefe, if you will, Jamil Coury. Jamil, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh man, we are so pumped to have you on board at the helm of this just iconic magazine. How are you feeling about it? It's just been a few weeks since we made the announcement.
Yeah, I mean, it feels a little surreal. This magazine is something that I revere a lot, and it was a big part of my personal journey in the sport. So there's, I think, big shoes to fill, and I feel that. And so I'm definitely excited about the opportunity.
We have so much to cover. We want to talk about Airvipa and all the different things you have your hand in that truly have inspired so many people to get into the sport, to stay in the sport. But let's talk about the acquisition here under Steep Life Media. When did you begin the idea to entertain purchasing the magazine?
It was fairly recent. Carl, the former publisher and owner, reached out to me, just planted the seed and asked if I was interested. So it all happened pretty quickly. I think it was in May that he first reached out to me. So I don't think I'd ever really thought about it before then, to
Wow,
be
I think
honest.
we're reaching like near impulse buy territory with that between the time the conversation started and then when you made the purchase. I think people like they like do research on like washing machines or cars for longer periods of time before making such a important purchase or investment. But boy, we couldn't have asked for a better person to, take the helm of that. I'm hoping people can learn and glean from this conversation just who you are and what you've done for the sport and why we have and thank you so much to Carl and his family for all that they poured into the magazine. But just this handoff, I don't know if you could ask for better. We'll get back into the magazine just a bit, but we want to learn more about you. My first encounter with you was we're going to get in the time machine, go way back to Angeles Crest 100 back in 2000, maybe 10 or so. I was roasting in the hot sun on the road with your mom. We're sitting on some shade provided by a car, waiting for you and others at Cooper Canyon. And I'm like, oh, who are you? She's, oh, my son's running. I'm like, oh, wow. She seems really young to have a son running this race, in which you were. I think you were only 20 years old at the time. And she's like, oh, yeah, he owns, Javelin 100. I'm like, wait, what? And so that was my first introduction to you. And then the rest has just become history. But let's talk about sort of how you got into the silly sport of running and where it's gone from there. So what was your introduction?
Yeah, I mean, I did run cross country and track in high school. That was kind of my introduction to just running in general. And then, wasn't really talented enough to make the collegiate team. So I didn't run collegiately, but I continued to run on my own and eventually found the local trail running group here in Phoenix that just so happened to also be made up of a lot of ultra runners. And so I got exposed to it very, very young. Ran my first ultra at 20 years old. It was a 12-hour night race. It was really, I think it was free. And you even got like this pair of Patagonia boxer shorts they call jammies. And it was in preparation for Across the Years 24-hour, which I had signed up for along with my two younger brothers. And I think I had run one marathon before my first 12-hour and mostly just wanted to see how far I could run. And it was really that simple. My mind was kind of blown when I heard about this 24-hour running experience, and I wanted to see what it was like for myself.
And where did your love for the outdoors come from?
Yeah, that started earlier. So I joined the Cub Scout program and then went through Boy Scout program pretty much all the way through growing up, and did a lot of camping and backpacking and hiking. And that's really where I got my love of the outdoors, was just all of those trips throughout growing up. Got to go to some incredible places. I grew up in Arizona, in Phoenix, but we have such a diverse state that we got to go, camping in the pine trees. We hiked down to Havasupai Canyon, which is an offshoot of the Grand Canyon, which is amazing. And so kind of always had that love of the outdoors, appreciation for nature, experience on trails and in the backcountry that I think that was, and you tie in that with running in high school, and it's kind of that perfect blend of interests that is what trail and ultra running is all about. And so for me, it was this very natural progression. Like as soon as I learned about the sport of ultra running, I knew that was going to be my thing immediately and haven't looked back since.
And that was in the early 2000s that you did that. And I'll go back and correct something. They said you were 26 when I saw you running Angeles Crest, not 20, because 20 is when you got into the whole crazy ass sport of ultra running. And what was that conversation like with your family? Because your younger brothers, you pulled into this 24-hour run, which was is just nuts. Nick and Nathan. How
Yeah,
does
when they
that
were still in high school.
yeah, I mean, I think your Nick was running cross country at the time.
Yeah.
So what was that conversation like to like, reel your brothers into that, and then to get mom and dad to kind of buy off on that?
I mean, I don't know if I really remember too much. I think they oftentimes, follow in their older brother's footsteps, at least want to try things out. And I don't know, I must have made it sound pretty cool at the time. I don't know, but yeah, I mean, my parents have been generally pretty supportive of the things that I like to do. And yeah, like they knew I was kind of progressing up in distance. I did a triathlon, and then I did some half marathons, and I did one marathon. It was more of a dirt road, like trail marathon, not a road marathon in Prescott. So I think they had kind of maybe seen it coming, and it wasn't a huge shocker. And I think the maybe initially what, like why they wanted to try it, and I guess I don't know, parents were on board, is it was a 12-hour night run. There was no set distance. You could really do what you wanted, which I think is the beauty of the fixed time format. There was no pressure whatsoever. You could run, you could walk. I think a couple of my youngest brother's friends even came out and each did a marathon distance. So I think that was a good way for us to dip our toe in the water.
Yeah, right. I'm loving this superhero origin story that we have going on. Because then, just to not too much longer after that, you get involved with Halloween 100. And that is kind of just the launch pad for what is to come years later, not really knowing what you're getting into, but just know that you've got a love for it. Can you talk about that experience and kind of what pulled you in, and more importantly, what made you want to stay?
Yeah. I mean, it all really was rooted in that very first ultra that I did. It was hosted at Nardini Manor, which is a property owned by Roger Rublick. And the Rublick family, he built this 500-meter dirt track around his property. He was also a hard rock runner. He was, and then him and his son, they took over the Javelina after the first three editions. So they were directing that. And my brothers and I just loved the sport. We wanted to give back. We started volunteering with Roger and with the Arizona Road Racers who organized the event at the time. And so it was really, again, kind of a natural progression. We just wanted to get more and more involved. We would go out to across the years and just, we would run it, but then we would go out early to help set up and pretty much be on hand for whatever they needed. And, I definitely told Roger about some ideas I had that I thought it would be fun to try and organize a race someday. I was sharing some ideas with him, and that must have planted a seed, because when them and their family, they ended up purchasing the Wyman Hotel in Silverton, and they were spending more and more of their time up there. They were stretched too thin, and that's when we had the opportunity to take over the event. And I didn't take that lightly at the time either, and just didn't really know exactly what I was doing, but I knew I wanted to do the best job I could. I did as much research as I could, but I also had great mentors. I mean, Roger Rublick, he's just an incredible person. He was super involved in the local community, and he was in the hospitality industry. They would organize weddings at Nardini Manor. He owned a hotel. So he really knew what it was like to take care of your guests and give everyone a great experience. And I definitely have to attribute a lot of my early success to Roger, and his work ethic was unreal. So
And that remains true today for being one of the things that you get when you go to an Aravaipa running event. It's not just a run, it is truly an experience. Talk about the evolution of that. And it seems to be a main staple for the success that you have because people keep coming back out to run them and it's grown so much.
yeah, I mean, we have a wide variety of events, and I think, I believe it's core to the running experience that you want to provide as a race director. And it's great that there's so many different flavors of it. And yeah, I've always tried to make it the best experience that we can, make something unique at each event that we like to organize. And, I've drawn on a lot of my own experiences in the sport too. Like, I've run events all over the world myself and seen what other groups and other people are doing, and try and use that as inspiration for what we do with our events too.
Yeah, it seems to be it's all in the details. Large and big. I remember I've only gone to one of your events so far. I went to an Insomniac run. It was stunner. It was last year, it was like 106 at the start.
Yeah.
And I remember riding in the bus out there, and like half the bus were just there were cots where you could just lay down if you needed to. I'm like, okay, this is an event organizer who truly gets it. They understand the suffering that is involved with this sport. And it really just spoke to my heart so much to see that, to see how you care about runners, and that seems to be paramount with everything. For Aravaipa running, how many events do you guys have?
Man, it's tough how you count them up. We probably have like over 40 events annually at this point. So it's sometimes more than one a weekend. We're in a few different states now, so we'll have an event in Arizona and one in Colorado sometimes on the same weekend, which is, yeah, definitely a lot of moving parts these days.
Yeah, yeah. Before we get too much further, I want to say congratulations on finishing Hard Rock just a few weeks ago. And your
Thank you.
brother, you ran with your brother Nick, which must have been pretty great. What was that like?
Yeah, I mean, this year I came in with probably the least amount of training I ever have into a 100 miler. Definitely the lowest amount of training going into Hard Rock. Um, so I was actually almost on the fence of not doing it, but decided to go for it, and definitely glad I did. It was a great experience this year. I just went in with zero expectations. I think I was the last person to cross the river, like the first creek crossing at mile 2, and just try to enjoy it and take it in and soak it up, and not implode too badly.
And were there any sort of takeaways or highlights for you?
Just spending time with people out there was great. Like the first day, especially, just kind of, typically maybe I'd be further up in the pack. So I got to just chat with a lot of different folks out on the trail. Um, Going over Handy's Peak on the second morning was a great experience. So those are kind of some of the memories I'll remember for this one.
Yeah, and that's one of those events where you will keep going back so long as you can. Um,
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't get easier. It was humbling this year. I've done it several times before, but it doesn't get any easier. It's a tough course.
yeah, a lot of inspiration, I'm sure, to draw on from there. So going back to Aravaipa and how you've built that over the years, what was your decision point to go from this Javelina 100 to grow it into what it has evolved into today so far?
Yeah, I didn't really have a vision when I took over Javelina. I just wanted to direct a race, and did that in 2008. And then the decision point for me was trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life in 2009. And graduating college, I had taken a tax accounting job, wasn't really my passion. It was something, I wanted to get some work experience, but ultimately wanted to own my own business. And the pieces kind of came together in 2009 when I was looking around and seeing that there was a couple people around the country that were making a living in the trail running world. Some of them were organizing an event series and kind of coaching and doing some other things to make a living. Joe Prusitis in Texas. You had Wendell and Sarah Doman in California. I was friends with both of them, and I was looking around Phoenix, and we had a couple of different runs that were taking place. The Javelina 100, the Pemberton Trail 50K, the Crown King Scramble across the years. But there were all these other regional parks around Phoenix that didn't have any organized trail running events. And that to me was a bit of a spark of inspiration. And even the local trail running community, like they would go and run those races that existed, but some of them had never run in Santan Regional Park or Usery Mountain, where you went and ran Stunner. And there's just no organized trail running there, but there were trail systems. And so I kind of utilized Javelina was like the building block. I had an established relationship with the local parks and basically wanted to create a local trail series of events that would introduce people to these other regional park trail systems that we have in Phoenix, get them exposed to them, and just provide more trail running opportunities. So that was kind of the vision of Aravaipa when we launched it. Was we wanted to create a local trail running series that brought people together to these other regional parks that even the most dedicated local ultra runners potentially had never been to all of them and run all those trails.
Yeah, it must be pretty remarkable looking back what you've done so far. Not only to of just what you've done for the local community. I mean, you bring in people from outside the area, myself included, and to introduce them to different parts of this wonderful state and other states that you've gone into now. But just what that also means for the local community there. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, we're obviously not the only people organizing events in Arizona, but yeah, we've tried to really create unique events to bring people together. I mean, running is such a communal sport at the end of the day, especially ultra running. We're all bonded by suffering, by the beauty, by kind of getting out there together. And it takes a lot of people to come together to make these events possible and to make this community and sport what it is. And so we aim to do that, when and where we can here in Arizona.
Being at the top of an organization that does so much now in multi-states would seem to be enough, I think, for most people to keep them busy. But you haven't stopped. You have also grown in other areas too. You are quite the entrepreneur, I would say. Just kind of self-made, which I really appreciate that. I come from a family of entrepreneurs. I think that's you do too, your father and your grandfather also, which is very admirable. But you've grown into the lifestyle market with Run Steep, with Mount Outpost, with the live streaming and coverage that you do there, which has just been spectacular. I have to also pinpoint just on the event side with Cocodona and just the stellar just success that has had, selling out so quickly this year. It's just mind-boggling. And also, but to be at the forefront of for ultra running, just in terms of the live race coverage that this organization's able to do is just amazing and has evolved so much. I remember we talked about this sort of thing back in the early days of ultra running. Is would it be so cool if they could televise this, but it'd be such a huge cost to do it. There's just no way to do it. You got to get the satellite truck out to do this stuff. It'd be near impossible. And where you saw the word impossible, you saw that's possible. We can do this. So I'd love to hear more about Mount Outpost and sort of its humble beginnings as a content creator to what it is today, which again, it is my brain melts when I see what you guys can do.
Well, I mean, part of it is I think we got lucky with the timing of like a bunch of different technologies coming together. But I would say, we even had roots of this in the early days as soon as we got into the sport. I mean, man, even back to like the across the years days with Roger and even some of the stuff they were doing. I mean, they had, before smartphones, they had their own messaging system where you could submit like a message to your runner and they would print them out and put it in little mailboxes. It's so funny just to see how the technology and that desire to make like tech and creativity into the space work. And that I think has been part of like my DNA just as a person and part of Aerovipa's DNA. I mean, my brother for his college thesis wrote code for a timing program that we used from the beginning. So it's just like all these different pieces, and we've always tried to make videos and take pictures and even do webcam streams from the early days. But then, yeah, fast forward to wanting to make some YouTube content and to try and inspire people or share my personal journey in the space with a wider audience to, how do we live stream these events? And first off, it was, let's do it at Desert Solstice, which is relatively easy, a low lift. It's at a track. And then the technology again has just come so far in these last few years since, that turning point for us was Black Canyon in 2021. And I think we had some breakthroughs on our end on how to piece this together. No one really has written a book about how to live stream a trail race, especially with limited bandwidth and service. So now with Starlink here, it makes life a lot easier and the quality can be a lot better. So I think, yeah, part of it is just luck on timing and that this technology is now so widely available. It's amazing.
It's staggering. And the people you bring on board to do the commentary is also great. But also just presenting a way for people in the community who can't be there to be able to also live chat and talk about what's going on is also such a remarkable thing that we can do nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, it gives a place for everyone to come together and just talk about it in real time, which I think is great.
And just all the different events that you have covered this year alone. A few more coming up this year. You'll be at Run Rabbit, Halloween 100, of course, and again at Desert Solstice. But you've covered a lot of different races in different states in Oregon and in California. Can you talk about kind of what's the goal there? Are you is someone hiring you to come and cover these races, or you just like, no, we want to go and do this because we really want to highlight what's happening here?
Yeah, I think it's been a combination. I would say most of the ones that we've done have been the race director or the race committee wanting it. We have put a couple feelers out there for a couple of these, and we're starting to do that a little bit more. Events that we feel should have live broadcast coverage but don't currently. We're trying to make a few of those happen just because it would be good for the sport. But a lot of times it is the race themselves. They see that we've gone to other events and then they reach out to us, and we try our best to make as many of these happen as we can. But it really, I think, works best when there's total buy-in from both sides, from our team and from the race organization as well.
Yeah. We are such a the demands from consumers for content it's never been higher. But also to be able to present these races, like the only way I could really describe this to you is to show you. And on this level though, so the High Lonesome coverage that I saw just a few weeks ago was just staggering, just to see all of that. And yeah, so just well done to you guys for everything you do with that. It's incredible.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's really amazing. Like, it really helped, I think, bring that event to life. Like, I had heard about it over the years, but yeah, I don't think you truly understand it until you see some of that imagery come across.
Yeah, and talk about, I mean, there's so much risk too. So much could go wrong. Um, you know, the weather for one, trying to get a drone out there to be able to cooperate with the wind and the rain and everything else. A lot of luck is involved, but a lot can, I'm sure, does go wrong with covering live events like that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, not only, I mean, even with event organization, there's a lot of risks, but yeah, then trying to put a live broadcast, it's definitely, yeah, there is a lot of moving pieces again. And but yeah, that doesn't stop us. We keep
You know,
trying.
do you have a kind of a vision for what it how it could grow, or is it not there yet, or are you pretty satisfied with what has developed so far?
I mean, I think overall it's on a good trajectory. I mean, we always we want as clean a video feeds as we can, and of course we want as much footage as we can. So, but it also, it costs a lot of money to get people out there. You have to get people physically on course with a lot of expensive equipment, and so there are some limits to what you can do without TV broadcast deals. We're putting this out on YouTube for free, so it's very different than a lot of other live sports that are out there in the world. And there's some amazing other groups doing this around the world. We're doing a lot here in the US, but I think, yeah, we're seeing too what some other amazing groups are doing around the world, which is awesome to see.
Um, who um, who inspires you? What are some races that inspire you? Maybe some race directors that inspire you, that kind of, or who've kind of helped develop who you are today.
Yeah, I mean, number one, I think Roger Rublik in the early days was a huge inspiration. And then just, even like Jerry Kay, Kilgariff, she was the founder of Javelina. And I think she injected like her own spice in DNA into the event that we've really carried throughout the history and just kind of built upon that foundation. Man, there's so many. I mean, even like Caleb Efta from High Lonesome, it's really amazing to see what he's done with that event in the local community up there, in that whole range. Like I was inspired by seeing that. I love what like Tim Tollefson's doing with the Mammoth Trail Fest, Daybreak Racing crew. I mean, it's almost endless the number of like inspiring directors. I mean, I took a lot of inspiration, years ago when I first went and ran UTMB. What what they've done with that race is truly inspiring in terms of it's such an amazing loop through those mountains and the ambiance that they create. Like they do, it's like you said earlier, those little things and those big things that kind of all draw together to make an experience and like an emotional experience that you may not even fully notice what they do, whether it's from the music they play or the other little elements that are part of the whole runner journey. So yeah, I mean, I draw inspiration from them as well.
Yeah, it's so much more than the run itself. It's a celebration of getting together. It's a celebration of what we can achieve with the human body, what we can achieve with our minds too. As a collective. Uh, I think that's something that is probably a centerpiece for what kind of drives you. You seem to be such a caregiver for the trail running community, and not only the people but also the land. And I wanted to focus on that for a second too. I know that a lot of proceeds from Javelina go back into the land there. Can you talk about that? And I'd like to hear more about your contributions to the land.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of definitely the parks are supported by the running events that take place and happen. So especially the Maricopa parks, like they're funded by themselves. So they don't get a ton of like federal dollars or state dollars. They pretty much have to balance their own budgets. So hosting events there, I mean, it goes directly to their budgets and to their bottom line. And yeah, we try and do as much as we can too with other events throughout the year in different communities. Um, we've acquired events from out of state as well that give back to their local communities, whether it be, North Fork 50 in Colorado to the local firefighter association, or Chikura Mountain in New Hampshire with the Chikura Mountain Conservancy. So yeah, we try and do what we can to support all these organizations. I mean, without the trails, without these open spaces and these protected lands, like we wouldn't have a sport. So it's incredibly important to support them and give back to them.
Wow. It's it's just staggering what you're able to accomplish, not only to get back to the community and the land, but also the runners experience that you guys have created. So and then Steep Life, Run Steep, Get High is this lifestyle brand you've developed. I'd like to hear more about that and sort of where that's just yet one more thing that you are continuing to do. I don't know how you like come home and say, honey, I got an idea for something. Sit down. But where did that come from? And then what's your hope for that?
Yeah, I mean, Run Steep, Get High, it started as just a tagline. I think we were trying to promote one of our events in Silverton, over a decade ago. And I think it just popped into my head one day, Run Steep, Get High. And eventually made some shirts and then kind of launched a YouTube channel. And it's just a whole journey of like getting out there and like doing more than you've ever done before, like tagging that next peak, doing something hard, getting out there, tag some summits, inspire yourself to go further. And that's really kind of the mantra of, I think, how I approach the sport. And, that's kind of my favorite style is like, I mean, I love all types of running, but, getting out there, climbing peaks is something I personally enjoy. And so it's something that inspires me and hopefully others. And, I haven't spent a ton of time on like the Run Steep Get High brand lately with everything else going on. It's kind of a little bit of a back burner at the moment. So, you can't push all areas at once. But definitely I love to inspire people through that brand. And, we do make some gear that can hopefully get you out there and up and down some mountains.
Well, I'm a huge fan of the Run Flat, Get Low with the armadillo. Uh,
Yeah, there you go. Skylar's tagline. Love it.
Pretty great, pretty great. So, you know, with all of these different things that you have your hand in, I imagine you spend a lot of your time behind a desk now. Um, how do you keep yourself on a time management level from going down a rabbit hole too far? Because any one of these things could just take you away. Not even talking about, because I know you really love creating content. Getting behind a computer and working on video and editing, all that, which, believe me, folks, takes so much time and energy to do that. So how do you manage your time? Because, you are a father too, which you haven't talked about that, but how do you balance it all? I'm sure you get that question a lot.
Yeah, I mean, number one, we've got a great team here amongst everything that we do. So it's essential. Like we could not do what we do without a large team. I'm mostly not a race director anymore. And yeah, you're right. I do spend a lot of time behind a desk, in spreadsheets, in other documents, and trying to move our vision forward. But it yeah, it doesn't come easy. But I really rely upon my team. I mean, our team of race directors, our entire supporting staff, especially for all the events. The events all take place without me doing a lot of direct work. I'm not marking trail anymore as much as like when I first got into the sport and race directing, that was like my favorite thing to do was scouting courses and running trails. But it's really cool that, now people are getting paid to do that on our team, and that's their job, is to reroute this course and to put this event on and to bring the community get together, and that's really rewarding for me now.
Um, the questions popped in my head about the live streaming. Are there events out there where you just drool thinking about if we could cover this one race, it would just be epic.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think Leadville would have been awesome to witness this weekend, especially with the history that took place. Like that would have been pretty incredible to be able to you hear about it and you're like, oh man, I've got to see this to believe it, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
I think that would be a really great one. JFK, I think, could be pretty interesting to see more of of like a faster. I know it's not all road, but more of a road race. I think could be pretty interesting to see how fast these guys are moving, or like a tunnel hill. Um, so yeah, maybe some different styles of races I think could be really interesting. A lot of the big ones are getting some coverage these days. So yeah, maybe some more diversity in the types of events would be really cool.
That would be super cool. And congratulations to David Roach and Mary Denham for their top finishes at Leadville. What an accomplishment. My goodness.
Yeah, I think, but what both of them, their debut 100 milers.
Sick.
Yeah,
Just
and I
sick.
know David is experienced and like he's coached people through probably thousands of 100 milers at this point.
Yeah.
So he definitely knew what he was getting into, but to put all the pieces together and take down this historic record is incredible.
15 hours, 26 minutes. My goodness. Mary Denholm from Erie, Colorado, 18 hours, 23 minutes. Just, you guys gotta.
17 minutes off of an Antrace in the 1994 legendary run, you know?
Oh, so close. Oh my God.
It's amazing.
Love it. That just brings a smile to my face. My goodness. Oh my gosh. Congratulations to all the finishers. We're going
Absolutely.
to have our resident doctor, Dr. Jason Wagner, who broke his clavicle just a few weeks ago. He finished Leadville. So he's recovering right now, but we hope to get him on here in the next few days. So I can't wait to hear his story. He says that he's
Wow.
like, can't wait to tell you what happened. So totally
Oh
stoked to
man.
hear it. Yeah. And we're going to be talking about sleep and why sleep is important in your training cycle. So stay tuned for that.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Definitely
Uh,
tune into that one.
Thank you all. Yeah. So I want two more things I want to talk about. One of my favorite topics in the world, pizza. Your younger brother, Nathan, Chef Nathan, has a Freak Brothers Pizza, which you are, I believe, a co-owner in. I want to hear more about it. Tell me, what's it about?
Yeah. Well, it actually was born out of the races and out of Aravaipa. So we had a local pizza vendor come out to Javelina one year, and it was such a hit. Tried to get him out to some more events. He came out to a couple more, and then I think it was like one or maybe two events. He kind of last minute canceled on us. He had something coming up, and we're like, everyone was disappointed. There was no pizza, and funny enough, he actually would build the ovens that he would bring to cook in, and he would build them on the back of like an old pickup bed trailer. And so we just asked him if he could build us a trailer, if we could buy one off of him. And he said, sure, I'd love to. Built us a pizza oven. Um, and then he helped us get started. Basically, my brother jumped in. He's like, well, yeah, I'll give this a shot. And so yeah, that was back in like 2014. And so that was the origin of Freak Brothers Pizza, was cooking at Aravaipa running events, throughout the calendar year. And it's evolved. I think we're about 4 or 5 years in. We have a location in downtown Phoenix in a shipping container bar village restaurant concept. And that's what my brother does full time now. And he's really pushed forward. He now caters a bunch of weddings um, with pizza.
Incredible. So, what's your restaurant's beginning? Well, it used to be at an aid station. Sit down. Let me tell you all about
Basically.
it.
Yeah.
basically, I'm sure it wasn't. I'm sure it was at the finish, whatever. But my God, and so the origins of it, that was so killer. Oh, all right. What's your favorite slice? Your
Oh
go-to
man.
slice. I'm sure you have
That's
many favorites.
Yeah, probably like a pesto base with veggies and probably some vegan pepperonis.
Yeah, gimme. Yeah,
Good
I had my
stuff.
first vegan pizza just the other day with vegan pepperoni. Not too shabby. I could wasn't as greasy. Could hardly tell. I love
Yeah,
it.
nice. It's
Yeah.
got, yeah, that stuff's come a long ways.
Yeah. Thank goodness. So good. Oh yeah. And the cheese, my God, the cheese is so good nowadays. Okay, I could go on. I really could go on. But back to so Len with magazine, I want to hear more about it. I think I'll be seeing you in a few weeks in Bend. We're all getting together for a powwow for a few days.
Yep. Yeah, like a planning, I guess an annual planning retreat is typically like the first week in September. So I'm definitely excited for that.
Yeah, the stoke level is very, very high. So, so I already asked you about like how the idea come to begin with to purchase the magazine, but what are you a fan of with the issue?
Just with the magazine,
Yeah.
I mean, I love that there's two main parts to it. So there's obviously the print publication, which is, you know, the cornerstone. Like that's what it was back to May of 1981. And I think it's so cool to have like a kind of like an independent print magazine for the sport. I think it's extremely important. And I just want that to continue. I think it is just such a cool thing. Uh, um, to just get that in the mail. I mean, it's evolved over the years, of course. You know, when it was first founded, it was where you went to find out the race results for the sport. It's where you went to learn about the races. You know, back in the 80s, you would just open this up and you could look up your region and find out where I can go run an ultra and even clip out an entry form and fill it out, which is hilarious. But yeah, as it's evolved over time, like our need to publish the race results has changed a little bit, although it's still, I think, probably the coolest thing to see your name in print as a finisher of an event. I think that is so cool. Um, but now there's also like what has been built up on ultrarunning.com through Carl and Coury and everything they've done, like such a comprehensive database of race results and athlete biographies. And if you're out there listening and you haven't looked yourself up, or maybe your friends and family on ultrarunning.com that have run ultras, it's really cool to see some of your stats, like how long have you been in the sport, how many races have you done, how many have you done multiple times, and kind of, for me, it's like nostalgic to look through and see like these accomplishments, because they are accomplishments, and they all mean something. And then of course, you know, the calendar and all the other content too that you do with the podcast here. So yeah, like that I think is all just great for the sport and something that is worth continuing.
Do you have a hope for the magazine now that you're now the owner?
Yeah, of course. I mean, we would love to grow our subscriber base and continue to provide the best content that we can, and put together the best magazine that's possible in 2024 and beyond. And yeah, I would love to see what can be done on the media side of things too. I think that there's always more coverage and unique coverage to speak to the heritage of the magazine and the publication and the people that came before. You know, I think that's the hope that we can continue to make an impact on the sport.
I have no doubt that it will happen. I am so excited that you're with us now, and I cannot wait to see what happens next. It's going to be amazing. I just know it.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Jamil, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. I can't wait to see you in person next month. And good luck with Javelina coming up in just gosh, a
Couple
month and a
months.
half. My goodness. I hope to be
Yep.
down there this year. I cannot wait. I am striving to be there. So yeah, we'll see.
Would love to have you.
I can't wait. That's feels so good. So good. All right, my friend. Thank you so much for your time. I'll be seeing you soon.
Thanks so much.
Got it.